Hey, what's up everybody? My name is Zach Pasquarello, and in this video, I'm actually going to answer questions that somebody asked me in one of my earlier videos. And let me just say, if you have questions about starting a bookkeeping business or just QuickBooks and bookkeeping in general, leave me a comment, send me an email. I would love to answer your questions in future videos. And if you like this video, make sure you subscribe to my channel because I make new videos every single day teaching you how to start and grow a bookkeeping business the exact same way I did. I started 3 years ago and I have been able to grow a very successful business where now I'm making 6 figures, and I want to teach you how to do the same thing that I did. And if you want to schedule a one-on-one consultation with me, I actually do mentorships with people trying to start their own business. So schedule a consultation with me. There's a link in the description below. Okay, let's get started. I'm just going to run through real quick all the questions that this guy asked me, and then I'm going to answer them. So after getting a client, where do you start doing bookkeeping for them? So that's a pretty generic question. Like, where do you even get started? What are the things I need to know about my client's business in order to do their bookkeeping? How can a client invite me to their QuickBooks account? What are the things I need to ask a client when I'm doing their books? And then finally, how can a client share their information with me, whether through email or Google Drive or Dropbox? Okay, so I'm just going to jump right into it. I'm not going to waste your time. I'm going to start answering all of these questions. And like I said, if you have questions, then send me an email or leave me a comment on this video. I would be happy to make a video in the future answering your specific question. Okay, this is a pretty generic question, but where to start doing bookkeeping? So where to start doing bookkeeping for your clients? I think I understand what he's asking, like kind of generally, like what do I even do to get started? And the biggest piece of advice I have for you is chronologically. This is the first question I ask all of my clients. So right now it's 2023. I ask everybody, do you need help with 2022 or are we starting fresh in 2023? It's usually split 50-50. Some people need cleanup for 2022. Other people just want me to start fresh in 2023. But it makes the most sense to do your bookkeeping chronologically because you can't reconcile 2023 without finishing 2022 first. So I always recommend people, even if you come at me with, hey, I need 3 years of bookkeeping, I would say, okay, let's start with 2019. Let's get 2019 completely done. And then we'll do 2020 completely done. And then we'll move on year after year, progressively like that. Same thing, if they are coming at you in 2023, let's say, okay, let's get January done first, and then we'll move on to February, and then we'll move on to March. So first things first, start doing your bookkeeping chronologically. And then once you figure out where you're starting, whether it's 2022 or January 2023, the process is the same. You're going to follow the 3-step process that I always talk about. First, you're going to categorize our transactions. So you're going to need to see either their bank statements, or you're going to need to connect their bank account to the bank feed in QuickBooks. So if you're starting January 2023, once all of the transactions are categorized, bank statements, credit card statements, then you're going to reconcile the accounts. So make sure the ending balance in QuickBooks is the same as the ending balance on the bank statement. And then the third step, profit and loss statement, financial statements. Send your client their monthly financial statements. It's usually just their monthly profit and loss. So once you categorize January, you reconcile January to make sure there are no mistakes, everything's accurate, and then you send them the profit and loss from January. Then you move on to February, then you move on to March. Just do things chronologically. Okay, the second question that this guy asked me, what info do I need to know about their business after I get a client in order to do their bookkeeping? So first of all, you need to be invited to their QuickBooks account. And inside their QuickBooks account, they should have a couple pieces of information about their business. Obviously, the name of their business, address, and lastly, their EIN. These are like the 3 bare minimum pieces of information that should be about the business inside of their QuickBooks. So you need to be invited to their QuickBooks. And I always talk about this. You need their bank statements and their credit card statements, their loan statements, their bills of sale for assets, their HUD statements if they're a real estate investor, their loan origination documents if they have loans, their amortization schedule for their loans, paperwork, documents, statements. Make sure you get everything from the client because this is what's going to give you the answers so that you can make sure the bookkeeping is done correctly. Okay, the third question, how a client can invite me to his QuickBooks account. How a client can invite me to their QuickBooks account. So this is what I talk about in all of my videos, and this is what I was just talking about. This is the information you need from them, and this is part of the quoting process. So as soon as I get a free consultation with somebody to give them a quote, I always tell them I will email you immediately after this phone call, and I will send you instructions on how to invite me to your QuickBooks. But really simply, there is a gear icon in the top right hand corner of the screen, and then they just need to click on manage users, and then they need to add your email address once they go to manage users. Click on the gear icon, go to manage users, and then enter in your email address as the accountant. And I actually have a little PDF document that I send all of my prospective clients, and the instructions are laid out in the PDF, and I give them the specific email address they need. If you want to see the PDF that I send people, send me an email. I'd be happy to share it with you. My email address is zach@harrisburgbookkeeping.com. Zach@harrisburgbookkeeping.com. 2 O's, 2 K's, 2 E's. Send me an email, and I will actually share with you the PDF document that I send all of my prospective clients with instructions on how to invite me to their QuickBooks account. Okay, we have 2 more questions that I'm going to go over in this video. The second question is, what are the things I need to ask a client when doing their books? I've already talked about getting their QuickBooks online invitation and getting their bank statements and credit card statements, but more specifically, once you get into their QuickBooks, once you start categorizing their transactions, you're going to ask them questions every single week. So I recommend log into their QuickBooks once a week, every single week, and categorize their transactions, and you're going to have questions. Maybe they're writing checks, and maybe you might only see check number 184. You're not actually going to see an image of the check, so you have no idea who they're paying or what was the memo. So anytime they write a check, you might need to ask them, hey, who did you pay and what did you buy? This is why it's really nice to actually get online view-only access to their bank account. If you get that, you can log into their bank account and you can actually see images of the check. So that's a big selling point. I always try to get view-only access to all of my clients' bank accounts. If they're sending wire transfers, like, you're obviously going to have no idea who did you pay with the wire transfer. And then if there's deposits, these are just examples. If they're depositing $10,000 into the checking account, was that a loan? Was that a security deposit? Was that income? Do you want me to create a sales receipt? Was that paying off a particular invoice? So some deposits you're going to need to ask them questions about. And then even some credit card transactions. Like, sometimes it's usually pretty obvious if they're paying their insurance company, or if they're going to Home Depot, if they're going to the gas station to get gas. But even sometimes credit card transactions, I have to ask, hey, you spent $105.67 at this particular store. What exactly were you buying? How do you want me to categorize that? My biggest piece of advice for you is never guess. If you don't know how to categorize something, if you've never categorized it in the past, then just ask your client. This is all part of delivering A-plus customer service, and you want to communicate effectively with your clients. Ask them questions. That way, you're not making any mistakes. At the end of the month or at the end of the year, whenever you send them their profit and loss statement, their financial statements, you want them to know that everything has been categorized correctly because you've already asked all of these questions on a weekly basis. Don't wait until the end of the year to ask them questions. And if you don't know something, don't be so afraid to ask them questions. Like, I don't want to ask them a question because I don't want them to think I don't know how to do my job. Don't do that, because if you make stuff up and if you guess and if you do things incorrectly, it's going to create more problems down the road. So just be honest, be upfront, ask questions in the beginning, and then it'll make things more accurate. Okay, this is the last question. How client can share info/documents. So how can the client share information with you and their documents with you? Some clients are more worried about security than other clients. Probably the easiest way would just be to send me an email, but some people don't like sending financial statements and banking information through email. So the second best option would be some sort of like a Google Drive or a Dropbox, some sort of cloud where they can upload the documents, you can log in, and you can see the documents for themselves. Third option, way less efficient than email and Google Drive, but they can mail you their bank statements or their documents if they don't feel comfortable using the internet. And then the fourth option, the least preferred method, but the fourth and final option, if they don't want to use the internet, if they don't want to use the mail, then tell them they can come to your office and drop off the documents in person. If you're still operating out of your house or your home office, or maybe you're in your parents' basement, that's not a big deal. Just be upfront with the client. Be like, hey, I operate my business out of my house. I actually don't accept clients coming to my house, but we can meet at Starbucks or we can meet at the cafe down the road. Just be honest, just be upfront with them, but don't let this get in the way of doing their bookkeeping. Always have an alternative solution. If you can't do email, if you can't do Google Drive, come up with a different method, because you're trying to make your client's life and your client's bookkeeping as easy as possible. So just